So the infamous to-do list, that's what we'll be building today in this live stream. Thanks for joining. You may be watching this afterwards as well. This is what we're going to build today. We're going to build this to-do list. Has a couple of special features in it. And we're going to be focusing on the front end today. So everything will be React. We're going to use Typescript. We're going to build out our own hook for storing these just in local storage within the browser. We'll be using styled components, React router, and pulling this all together. So I'm going to be doing this live, so I'm sure there will be some Googling and mistakes along the way. But you know, it's always helpful as a developer to watch another developer build things out, just to see what other people do and learn about different techniques. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so let me walk you through the interface that we're going to build out today. So this interface, this is Figma, just kind of a design that I mocked up of this. This interface has two different views. We have a list view over on the left and a focus view over on the right, and I'll get to that in a second. But the list view has our list of tasks. We can see just a single file list here. We can add a task at the bottom. We have these circles kind of like as our check marks to check off a task. If we hover over a task, then we can hit the trash can to delete it here. And then down at the bottom, we have a clear completed icon where we can clear away our completed tasks. Then over on the Focus tab, the Focus tab lets you see just one task at a time, kind of remove the distractions for all of the other tasks. And down at the bottom, you can either mark this completed or hit the Nope button and maybe pick a different random task if this isn't the one you want to do right now. So this will be fun to build out. P.S. This happens to be the same application, same UI that I'm building out in my beginner series right now for people who have no experience coding. So if you have no experience coding, then check out my beginner series on that. Otherwise, we'll get going now and do this, hopefully start to finish. We'll see what we can get done today. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to use Create React App for this. And so even if I use tools all the time, I frequently, whenever I start something new, will still Google how to get going with it, how to install it, because sometimes things change and you might forget what to do. So I'm just going to Google Create React App Typescript here, because we definitely want to start this with Typescript. This is going to be a Typescript tutorial. So let us use this command, npx, that helps us execute something from npm, create React app, name your app, and then here's the important part, -- template Typescript. So let's do that. So I've gone to a directory, a parent directory, where I want to put this code. I'm going to do npx create React app. Now, what I do a lot of times is I'll do @latest, because sometimes with this I found it uses a cached version locally, and I always want to pull the latest version of this, especially when I'm getting something started. So we'll do to-do list, and we'll do that template Typescript. There we go. It says it needs to install packages. That's fine. And we'll download and install everything here. Excellent. So while this is going, I think my approach for today is we're going to build out the functionality first, and then we'll get to the styling a bit later. Okay, so we have everything built out here. Let's open this up in VS Code. Great. Okay, we've got this going. Let me let me go over here and I'm going to pull up, I'm going to use the terminal just here within VS Code. And let me do a yarn dev, I think it's yarn dev, now I can't remember. We'll do a yarn start. Yarn dev is next. We'll do a yarn start. That's going to start our development server, and then that should pull up, here we go, pulls up our start screen. So this, we have everything installed, it's running, it's loading, and we're off to the races. Anytime I do this, this is also a good time to go ahead and make your initial commit, your initial git commit, so that if you mess anything up getting started, you can always get back to that. So I'm just going to call this initial commit. Oh, it looks like we don't even have a Git repository. There are no changes in this commit. Oh, you know what? That's because Create React App, I think, does this for you. Let me go into our to-do list, do a git log. Yes, so it automatically committed for us. I forgot it did that. Okay, so we've already committed. Let us get going on the functionality of our app. So I think the first thing I want to do is let's get React Router installed and then just build out 2 empty screens for our list view and our focus view. So let's pull up React Router. I wonder if there's anything special with Typescript. I actually don't think that there is. So let's just go to React Router. We're using this on the web, so we want React Router DOM. Okay. So I'm going to pull up another terminal to the side here. Can we see that? Yeah. So yarn add React Router DOM. Okay, great. I'm going to go to my app.tsx, and this is where that currently running file is. A couple things I'm going to do here. I don't need the logo. I'm probably either going to remove or heavily edit down this app CSS. So we'll take a look at that. And we're basically going to get rid of all of this. So let me get rid of at least everything inside of this app tag. I do want to, let's get rid of that logo. We're not using that anymore. I'm going to delete that from the directory. Let's take a look at this app CSS. Yeah, text line center, logo, animation. Yeah, I just really don't think I want any of this. I don't. Okay, let us get rid of that. So let's delete that file. We're really starting from a clean slate here. Pretty empty. Okay, let's do our React Router DOM, and we're going to pull this router component in to be the very top level of our app. And actually, it's called Browser Router. So I'm just going to use Browser Router. So let's pull in Browser Router. Okay. Sometimes VS Code will help us out here in the imports. Not going to do that right now, so we will do this ourselves. And this is going to say that couldn't find a declaration file. So since we're in Typescript, it really wants to have types to help us out. And not every package has types natively by default. So there's this great thing called, I think it's called Definitely Typed. And it's a community managed library of types for pretty much every popular NPM package you could think of out there. So I'm going to pull this down and install this into dev dependencies. So I'm going to do yarn add @type /React Router DOM, and I'm going to do a capital D flag to add this into our dev dependencies. Okay, so that will clear up our issues there. Next thing below here in this example for React Router, let me make this a little bit bigger, maybe. They have links for their navigation, and then this is the main component that switches back and forth between two different views. So we're going to use this switch component, and then this example matches on the route /about, and then this one matches on the route /users. So we'll do something very similar. So let's bring in that switch component, and now we can see this is pulling from React Router, I think. Not quite. So we'll pull this in ourselves, and then we'll go ahead and just pull in. We know we want the route component as well. So we're going to have two different routes here, and I think what I'll do is I'll make the list view our root level route, our home route, and then I'm going to make the focus view /focus. So let's do that. So so let's do excuse me. Let's do route path home, and we'll just have a div here that says list view, and then we'll do another route of /focus, and then this is going to be our focus view. Now I can already tell you, and if you're familiar with React Router, you'll spot this is not going to behave as we would expect. Let's say I wanted to go to focus view, and I would expect to see focus view, right? Let me show you. So if I save app.tsx, if I go back here, let me refresh. We're in list view. Excellent, we have some things working. We're on the home screen. Let me do /focus. Still says list view. That's because React Router in this switch component matches from top to bottom. And /focus includes that root route. And so this top route actually matches first. I want to match this exact path. You can do exact equals true, or a shortcut in React and JSX is that you can just put the attribute name if you want to mark it as true. So we're going to match on only this exact path. So only when it's exactly the home route, that's when we'll do the list view. Otherwise, it will fall below to the lower routes to try to match those. So if I save this and go back here, now /focus is matching on our focus view. That's exactly what we want. So that is a nice start. I'm going to arrange my windows like I usually develop. I like to have kind of my UI on the right and my development environment on the left. So that will help us out as we continue forward here. So we have React Router installed. We have our two different routes of list view and focus view. Great. Okay, let's keep going. Let's take a look at our design here. So we have, let's start on our list view. So we have a list of things. We have adding a task and clear completed. Now we're going to use React hooks to manage our state here. And we're going to build up at least one of our own hooks right now. Since we're not doing a backend in this video, maybe that's something we can do in the future. We're going to store this to local storage within the browser. And there are plenty of hooks out there that you could use to store into local storage. But I think this would be a good opportunity to go ahead and build a hook ourselves to store this data in local storage. If you haven't done that before, then this might be a really nice way to see how those work. So let's, I think we'll start with an input box, and we'll type something into there. We'll add it to a list and make that our first thing to do here. All right, so we have this app component within our source directory. I like making a screens directory, and this is a shortcut in VS Code, by the way. Notice I right-clicked and I did new file, but I'm actually naming a folder, and I can do slash. And I'm going to do list screen.tsx, and that automatically created the screens folder for me. So now I have this list screen, and I want to make a component. So I'm going to do import react from react. I'm going to do const list screen, and then we're going to type this with react.fc, that stands for function component. We're going to make a type called props, and then we will return a div with list view. So this is kind of what we had earlier. Now I am noticing that in this user profile, I created a new user profile for these videos, and this has a spaces set of 4. Let's change that to 2. So let's go to settings in here, spaces, probably somewhere in text editor or commonly used. Here we go, tab size, 2. Two. You know what? I think I want to make sure prettier is running as well to format my code. I'm a little surprised it's not running already. I'm gonna before I start Googling around about create React app and prettier, I do have a prettier extension installed into VS Code here. So I'm going to first add a prettier RC file to configure prettier. See if that just starts working since I have the extension installed. And then we'll troubleshoot from there. The only prettier config that I personally like to overwrite is I like single quotes. It's just something I like. So I'm going to mark this as true. We have a prettier RC, so that's our prettier config file now. If I close this screen and open it back up and save, it's still not working. So let me figure this out real fast, and then we'll keep going here. Let's see. What I really want to do is run prettier every time I save. And I'm betting that that is in here. So that's probably on format, like format on save. Okay, so we have that. Default formatter. Let me switch this to prettier. Oh, that's format on paste. I misread that. Okay, so here's format on save. So we have format on save. We're defaulting to prettier. So if I go back here and save, there we go. Excellent. Okay, that didn't take too long. So this is running from my VS Code prettier extension. Just helps us get to some common code formatting. Okay, let's fix some other things here. We haven't finished creating this file. I got a little distracted there. Let's export default our list screen. To export this, I'm going to call this list view 2 just so I can see this update on the right hand side once we get going here. And I'm going to create an empty type props that just receives nothing there. Okay, this looks good. We have a list screen. I want to go back to our app view, and instead of hard coding this list view, I'm going to use our list screen component. All right, so let's do list screen. It's going to import for us there, save, and now we have list view 2. And so that is loading up our list screen and showing this second component that we have. Great, okay, we've done several things here. This is a good time to commit our work. Let's go in, we've added our prettier config file. We have installed React Router, gotten that going. We've cleaned up some of the boilerplate that came with Create React App. So we have a number of things to commit here. So the high points here are install React Router, and then add routes. That's the high points of what we did. So let's go ahead and commit that over. All right, back to our list. Again, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a text input field and the ability to type in something, hit enter, and add that to a list. So we're going to start just very basic and really build upon our functionality from there. So I'm going to start out with just a simple array of, I'm going to go ahead and make it objects because I know we'll eventually need to have objects. An array of objects to store our to-dos in. And I'm going to use the React hook use state here. So let's do const to-dos set to-dos equals use state, and that's going to start as an empty array. Now these to-dos are going to be of a certain format. So let me go ahead and create a type up here. I'm going to build a lot of things in this file, but then I'm probably going to refactor this and move things back out. So let me do a type of to-do. I think for ease, I'm going to just keep the D a lowercase there. So a type of to-do, I'm going to have label is string. For some reason, my tabs are still 4 spaces. I have no idea why. So this state is going to be, since we're starting an empty array here, Typescript's not really able to deduce or inherit or infer what type this eventually needs to be. So we're going to tell it that it is a to-do array. That's the type of array. So if we hover over to-dos, we can see that this is now a to-do array. So for right now, our to-do is going to have one property, which is the label string. So let's go in here, and I'm going to create an input field, and we will have a value of new to-do label. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call these tasks. New task label. I'm going to rename this. So with F2, I'm going to rename this to task. That will rename it everywhere. And then this is going to be tasks and set tasks. So new task label, and then on change, we'll do a handle new task label change. A little verbose, but that's exactly what it's doing. Okay, now let's implement that. So anytime we have an input, you typically need some sort of controlling value around it. So anytime you set a value on an input, that is called a controlled input. 99% of the time, you're going to use a controlled input. So we need another use state here to manage the state of this new task label. So let me go up here and let's see, we have our array. Let's do new task label and set new task label. Use state, and this is going to start as an empty string. We don't need to define the type in here because Typescript will infer that that is an empty string. Let me go ahead and hit save to get some formatting nicer here. Let's see, make this a little bigger. Now let's make a function to handle this new task label change. So let's handle new task label change. What we want to do on a change is simply update the label. So this is going to be, let's see, on change passes in, I'm going to option click on this. On change passes in a change event handler. And let's see, so this is a change event handler. And on this, we want to set our new task label to the event.target.value. And that is, let's see, it's a change event handler for an HTML input element. So we're going to need to add that in here, I believe. Okay, excellent. So we had to tell React that this was a change event for an input. So what this is doing is anytime the input changes, so that means on every key press, then it's going to call this function, which will set the task label, which will update the input's value. A little circular, but that's how you do it in React. So now we have this input where we can enter text and the value changes. Now what we want to do is anytime we hit the enter key, we want to add that to the tasks array and clear out this input value so that we can start over. And I know that we'll also want to refocus the input. I believe we'll have to see if it defocuses. I think it might. So we have on change. We will also need an on key press, or down or up. We'll go with press. So handle new task key press. Let's make a function. Const handle new task key press. This is going to be a key event. Option clicking, keyboard event handler. Excellent. Keyboard event handler is this event type. And what we're going to do here is we want to see if the key was the enter key. So if e.key, and we'll probably have to say HTML input element, if the event dot that's interesting. Okay. Oh, keyboard. It's not a keyboard event handler. It's a keyboard event. Event handler is the function. Keyboard event. Let me make sure that's imported. Let's see, keyboard event. So event dot key code. Now this is marked out, deprecated. I'm guessing it's just code. Interesting. Okay, let's console log this while we're here. There we go. Interesting. I think I've always used key code. What's key? Okay. So key comes in as the name of the key. So I just happen to know that the key code for enter is 13. But for explicitness, to make our code a little more readable here, I kind of like this key, and we're going to listen for enter. So if the event key is enter, then we're going to add this task to the tasks array. So what we'll do is we'll call set tasks, and we want to we will replace the current value, but really we want to update the current value. And so we're going to make what we're passing to set tasks here a function. And this will provide us the current value of tasks. We do have this within scope here, but this is a best practice for some more advanced ways that React handles state changes. So we're going to pass in tasks here, and we're going to set you return your new value. So we're going to return an array, and since our UI has the add a task field at the bottom, we're going to put our new tasks at the bottom of the list. So we want to put our new task on the end of the array. So we'll return a new array here, spreading over our old tasks. So we're going to keep our old tasks as a part of this new array, and then build into that a new task. So because we're fully typed here, it knows that we'll need a label field, and we can get our target dot, or we can get our new task label that we already have within our state here. And so this is our new task here, this object with a label. So if I save that, then that will format. Now we're not actually displaying our tasks anywhere, so this wouldn't do much for us. So let me go down here. I'm just going to create a quick unordered list, even though it is ordered. And we're going to loop over our tasks so that we can display them. So let me grab our tasks array. We'll use our trusty map function. We will pass that to a function that provides us each task, and we will create a list item with that task.label. And anytime you use map in JSX, you really need to provide it a key. And in this case, we don't have a great key at this point. And the reason is the task label could be repeated. So your key, anytime you're using a key within a map function here, your key needs to be unique. It has to be unique. Someone could add two tasks with the same label. So the other approach is to use an index. So what we could do, but we won't, is inside of map, the function that gets called, the second argument is the index. So what we could do is add our index here. This would be fine if the list didn't really change much, or maybe it was only append only, or if you didn't ever reorder things. We're probably not going to get to reordering today. But generally indexes are not great keys because it's not actually identifying that task. So if we did have something that reordered, or if we had an animation on deleting a task, then if we deleted a task in the middle, then the next task will end up getting the deleted one's index, and so it's just not going to appear right. So even though we're not going to tackle some of those today, that's really good to keep in mind. At this point, what I'd probably do is bring in like a ID. In fact, I am going to do that. So I have this library that I love called NanoID. So I'm going to go to github.io/nanoID. GitHub.io, I love if you watch other videos. It's a quick way to get to the GitHub repo for any NPM package. NanoID is a very small, very fast, unique string ID generator for JavaScript. Works in Node, works in the browser. It's great. So I'm going to install this, and we're going to just generate an ID every time we create a task. So yarn add NanoID. Excellent. So on our task object, I'm going to say that we also always have an ID. And now we have a type error here because we're creating a new task without an ID. That's handy. So let's do a nano ID. We'll call that function. That will generate an ID for us. And now when we're mapping over this list, we do in fact have a unique key, which is that task's ID. Great. So let's save that. We're going to say first task. Hit enter. And there we go. So we have a new task adding to our list here. Now our input's not clearing, so let's do that. So we're going to do a couple of different things in here. So anytime we hit the enter key, we're going to set the tasks, updating that list, as well as set our new task label to be an empty string. So let's do our second task. That clears our label. It actually does keep our focus on the input field. I can still see my cursor blinking and I can type. So that's really nice. The other guard condition that I want to prevent here is if I just hit enter when the input's blank, I don't want a bunch of empty tasks here. So I only want to perform this action if the user presses enter and the new task label does not equal an empty string. So now if I hit enter, it's not going to add any empty tasks to our list. Let me refresh and then we can start fresh. Okay, so we have basic adding of these tasks in our list view. This is another good time to commit. So let's see, add ability to add tasks. Okay, so we've committed there. Let's take a look here. So how about we tackle the completed and not complete next? So we have our circle checkboxes here. Again, I'm going to style this later. We're going to get the functionality in first, but let's go ahead and add checkboxes so that we can see these tasks either be complete or incomplete. Another thing we'll need now is a way to model if a task is completed or not. So let's add an attribute on here called, sometimes I'm trying to decide whether I want to call it complete or is complete. A lot of times I'll do booleans starting with an is. Let's do that for now, and we can always rename it later. So is complete boolean. And anytime we add a new task, that's going to start as not complete. So we have to update this to where our new task starts with is complete false. Now in our list, before our label, let's add a checkbox. So let's do input type checkbox, I believe. And then we have a checked value, and this will be checked if the task is complete. Let's save that. We can see that here. Now I don't want these bullets, so I'm probably just going to wrap these in divs for now. And I'll change this UL to a div, and we'll adjust the styling here later. So now we have these. We can check them, although that honestly is not saving any information because we don't have any sort of handlers on it. Let's go in and create the create the on-change handlers for this input box or this checkbox. So let's do onChange. There's not an onChecked, is there? No. OnChanged. We'll do a handle task handle complete change. And this function is going to depend depend on which task this is. And so a lot of times what happens if when we have a list that we're iterating over, and inside of that we have event handlers, I frequently like to create higher order functions, which is a fancy name for a function that returns a function. So I want to have something to where I can call a function, pass to it the task, and it's going to return to me the event handler to use for onChange. So if that doesn't make total sense, let's walk through it. So handle complete change, we have to know which task to mark completed when this function's called. So I'm going to pass in a task here. And you may think, oh my gosh, you can't call this. The onChange will end up calling this function. Well, you can call it if this function returns a function. So let's do that. Handle complete change. So we'll do handle complete change. This is going to take a task of type task, and it's going to return another function. And I don't remember the types for this, so let's option click change event handler. Okay, this is still the same change event handler. And let's see, so event is change event handler of HTML input. Now there's no checkbox, no. HTML input type. And then we'll handle this function. The expected type comes from properties signature void. Change event handler, change event. Oh, I did that again. It's just a change event. It's not a change event handler. Change event, which we already have. Okay, so we're passing in the task to this function. So this gets called, and this returns a handler function, which we can then use to handle this change. So let's go in, and we need to adjust the is complete value of this task. So I'm going to, okay, we have our tasks array. What I'm going to do is I need to find the task for this ID, and I need to update that task to be is complete. So there are a couple of different ways we could do this. I think what we'll do is we'll do a const. Well, we know we're going to do a set tasks, and we need to pull in our current tasks value. And we're going to return to this a new tasks array with the updated task in place. So let's see. One thought here is I could actually just do a map, and then if the task ID is equal, then I could update the complete value. I think I will do that. So let's do a task.map. I may change my mind on this. This feels a little weird, but we'll go with it. So we're going to do a task.map, and if the task ID, let's see. So this is the, we're going to call this handled task. If the task ID equals the handled task ID, then we're going to return all the values of that task, but we're going to change the is complete value to whether or not this checkbox we have a checked is checked? Is that a Boolean? I believe it is. Yes, that's a Boolean. Otherwise, we're going to just return task. So again, what we're doing, we're updating our tasks array, taking our current list of tasks, we're mapping over that, so we're going through each one. This would be similar to finding the index for the task. You still have to go through at least most of them to find the appropriate index. So we're just going to go through all of them. And then if the task in question that we're currently iterating on is the one that we're trying to update, then we're going to go ahead and update it within this map function here. Otherwise, we're going to return the original task. Okay, we'll do that. Now let us go ahead and I'm going to console log. Every time we render, I'm going to console log the tasks right now so that we can easily see these values change. So we have two tasks right now. ID label, let me refresh because our isComplete value is new. So let's do our first task, second task. So our tasks array right now is 2 values. Let me make this a little bigger for the screen here. We have 2 values, so here are our nano IDs that were generated for ID values. We have our labels, and we have our 2 isCompletes is false. So I'm going to check the box, so that should update the value, re-render our screen, and let's see if the data changed. So let's go in here, and it did. Excellent. So we have our isComplete true on the first one and isComplete false on the second one. That worked nicely. Okay, so now we have working checkboxes. We have a working input field. Let's move on to our clear completed button and make that function. Okay, so let's add an actual button. So button, and it's going to say clear completed. And once again, we'll build a handler. So on click, we'll do a handle clear click. So we'll go up here, we'll build out our handler. It doesn't really matter. We don't need any state off of this event. So we're just gonna go right into our function here. And on the clear click, what we need to do is update our tasks array and keep only the values where isComplete is false, because we want to clear the completed ones. So that's a great case for the filter method. So let's do our set tasks, because once again, we're updating our tasks array. I'm going to take the current value of our tasks array and filter over that, keeping only the values where the task is not complete. So isComplete inverted, it is not complete. And that should handle our clears. Let me put an old div around this just to get it on a new line. Again, we'll get to styling later. So I'm going to add in a third task here, a fourth task here. I'm going to complete 1 and 3. And when I hit the clear button, we should keep the second and the fourth. There we go. Okay, so we've cleared our completed tasks. Great. That's looking pretty good, y'all. Okay, let's go ahead and make a commit. So add the ability to complete a task and clear tasks. Great, great, great. Okay, this pretty much wraps up the functionality for the list screen except for the delete button. Let's do that too. Okay, let's add in a delete button here. Now in our design, we had this fancy little delete icon, and we're only gonna show that on hover. We'll get to all that fanciness in the styling section. For right now, we're going to build a beautiful button that just says delete. Okay, so let's, inside of our task row item, let's put in a button here that says delete. So let me save that. So every row here is going to have this beautiful delete button. We'll do an on-click handler for this, and we'll do handle task delete. Okay. Click. I always like to end with the thing that you're handling, the action that you're handling. And in fact, I like task delete click. Handle complete change. I'm going to change this. I'm going to F2 this. Handle task complete change. I know these names are a little verbose, but I like how these work. Okay, const handle task delete click. Once again, this is a higher order function here, or it will be, where we're passing in the task that we want to handle, and we're returning the event handler function. So we're going to have a very similar function signature to this up here. But we don't need any sort of arguments from the button click itself. So all we need really is this handled task, which for kicks, I'm just gonna call task. So once again, we need to update our tasks array. Set tasks, passing in our current value, and what we need to do is eliminate the one that we're deleting. So that's another case for the filter function. So we're going to filter out, or filter in, is really how this works. Only the tasks where the, okay, now I want this to be called handled tasks, handled task. We want to filter in only a task where the task ID does not equal the handled task ID. So that will filter out where it does. So let's test our functionality out here. So we have task 5, we have task 6, we have task 7. Let's say we want to delete 6. Great. So that filtered out filtered out the task that we hit delete on. So that's nice. So that actually wraps up the functionality for this screen. Now there are tons of other things that we could do here. We could do reordering of tasks, relabeling of tasks would be really nice, but this is going to be a fairly basic to-do list here, just to get a lot of these fundamentals in. So I like where this is functionality-wise. It's really ugly, but we're going to fix that. Let's move on to the focus screen and build out that functionality as well. So let me save my changes here. So add ability to delete a task. Okay. Revisiting our design, we have these two tabs at the top, list and focus. So list is selected when we're looking at the list. Focus is selected when we are looking at the focus screen. That's really nice. Let's build something like that out. Now, if I scroll on over back to our React router example here, they used a nav tag in an unordered list. The link components are the important ones for building out links. Now, what I'm really looking for is I need to know if this is the current view, because once we get to the design, we want to know, okay, should focus be yellow or selected, or should list be selected? So there is a component in React Router called navlink, and we have both active class name as well as active style, and that will help us, as well as if is active. Oh, that's interesting. That will help us to know which one of these is active. So we're going to use the navlink class, or component, I should say. So up here in our app component, this is where we have our two screens. And so I think this is a good place to go ahead and put in our tabbed navigation. So let's just use, for semantics, let's use our nav HTML tag. And within there, we're going to have two nav links from React Router DOM. So the first one is going to go to our root route for the list view, and the second one is going to go to our focus route for our focus view. Now, ordinarily, when you create just regular React Router links, these props would be fine. But since this is navlink, we have to do the same things we did as a route down here to make sure that we're getting the right active route. So this one is, whenever we match to know whether or not this is active, we want to match only on the exact root route, not a partial match of the root route, which would be every single route. And then let's just do an active style. And I'm going to make the active style just have a font weight of bold. So I'm just going to copy and paste this for now. We'll refactor this once we get to the styling. Save this, and now we have our two routes up here. I'm going to add a hyphen in between these, just to have this, and good old BR tag for now, just to add a little space. Again, we'll get to all the styling. So we have a list view and we have a focus view. We can switch between these. It knows the state, so it bolds the currently selected tab. Our route changes. We can use our back and forth buttons in the browser. Our screen components change. This looks really great, or it functions really great. Okay, I like this. So let's replace this route with our focus view. So let me pull up my tree over here, file tree. We have a list screen component. Let's make a focus screen component. Again, we'll add a bit of boilerplate here. I actually like to create a snippet within VS Code to just really quick. Usually mine's called comp, so comp tab, and that will, insert the React component boilerplate that I like. But I'm going to type this out for us here. So focus screen's the name of our component and function. It's a React function component. I always have a props type. We're not going to pass in anything right now. We're going to return a just div with focus screen. We'll export default focus screen, and we will create our type of props, which is empty. That should get rid of all of our errors. We'll save that. Now instead of this div, we'll do our focus screen, which VS Code politely imports for us. Okay, so now we have our focus screen, and we can switch between it. Now, here's where we start to we start to have some shared state. So in the list view, I want to be able to have, first task, second task. I've entered my task in the list view, and when I go to focus, I need access to that task's state. So we need to extract the state out of just the list component and bring that up to a higher level so that we can use it in both the list screen and the focus screen. So let's do that. Some people might jump all the way to using React context here. I typically only bring in context when it's absolutely necessary. And I do use context quite a bit, but again, only when it's necessary. In this case, it's not necessary yet. I think we can just bring it up a level into this app component, and then we'll pass our state down into these screen components. We may end up building context here shortly, or even a hook that uses context. That would be kind of interesting. But let's keep it simple now. It's always best not to overcomplicate it when not necessary. So again, all of our state is within our list screen component. We have our tasks array here. So essentially what we want to do is we have tasks and set tasks. Instead of managing that here within this component, I want to manage it within the parent component, which right now is app, and pass those items down. So let's bring our tasks and set tasks into here. We have view state. This task type, I just frequently like to create a types file. So I'm going to create a types.ts file, and we're going to bring in that task type that we had into our types file. We're going to export that. So now we can use that in a variety of places in our app. So I'm going to control space on this to help us get that imported. So now tasks is an array of tasks, and set tasks is this really fancy type here for setting tasks. Can I just copy that? Can I copy that? Okay, let's go to our list screen and focus screen. Now what I want to do is I want to be able to pass in this tasks array and even set tasks here. Again, getting more advanced, I'd probably end up creating some sort of context and hook system to not have such direct access to, change these tasks. But we're going to start here. So inside of our props, we now need to pass in these two elements. Well, if you don't know what types these are, especially the set tasks one looks a little complicated, you can just, again, hover over it and copy the types from Typescript here. So we have that Typescript is inferring here. So we have task array, and then this complicated one for set tasks. So we're gonna bring that in. So here in our list screen, tasks is gonna be a task array, and we will import that from our types file. And then set tasks is going to be that type that we copied from Typescript. So this looks good. Alrighty. Now, I'm going to end up passing the same thing to the focus screen. So I could copy and paste, or I could just go ahead and make a type that has these on it. So I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to create another type called tasks props. and that's going to have our props that we would pass into components to manage tasks. So here, what I like to do is instead of type props equals empty type, I'm going to do tasks props ampersand for to intersect those types, I believe it would be called. Thinking live here. So this props is really going to be task props and nothing. So I could leave off this and nothing, but I'm going to be explicit that we're not adding any additional props to this. We'll see if Prettier actually ends up removing it. That I'm not sure. That's funny. So task props and nothing. Okay, it doesn't remove it. So we're not passing anything there. Now we should have type errors on list screen and focus screen because now we are requiring those two props to be passed in. So let's pass those in now, and we have them right here, tasks and set tasks. So I think I will even create a tasks props object. And we're going to do tasks and set tasks here. And I'm going to spread over those onto this screen. I could go either way on that. I could just explicitly add them here or not, but I'm going to use this object for now. Okay, save that. Now we're passing in. So now our state is managed at the app level. Let's go ahead and add a task first, second, third. So our state is working. Now before, I should have pointed this out, if I went to the focus screen, went back to the list screen, our state would be gone because we lost our list view, and when we go back to it, the state starts over. But now since it's managed at the app level and nothing's happening to the app while we're switching screens, I should be able to go to focus, then go to list, and our state's still there. And in fact, let's, on our focus screen, just for kicks right now, let's, we're passing in our tasks. If there is a task, let's display the first one. So let's say const task equals tasks 0. So this is either going to be a task or it's going to be undefined if there isn't one. So if there is one, then let's return that task.label. And then if there isn't one, let's return no tasks. Okay, so that's first, and we have our first task. I'm going to refresh. So I'm refresh so we're clearing our state here. So we're starting on no tasks. That's what we expect. We'll go to our list view, and we'll stay shoot video, edit video. Go to our focus view, and now we have shoot video because that's our first task. So we have our state managed at the higher level. We can access that state in both of these views, and that's working out nicely. I like that. Okay, let's once again make a commit here. What have we changed? We have moved our state to a higher level in the app view. We've added the centralized types file. We've added really the beginning of our focus screen here. And we have moved some of the state out of the list screen. I think that works nicely. Okay, so I'm going to say move state up to app level, and we're starting on the focus screen. Okay, that's a nice commit. What are we going to do next? Okay, we have list, we've got that going. Let's take a look at our focus view. So in our focus view, we list one task because we're focusing on that task. we have the ability to mark it completed, or this little nope option if we want to randomly select another task. So let's mark this completed. Now I'm thinking through this in my head as we're going here. We already actually have a mark completed handler. And that's, if you'll remember, where we're going through and we are removing a task from the array if that fits. This will be really nice functionality to centralize. It is simple, but it's not completely straightforward here, and it'd be nice to manage that only in one place. Now, if we did manage that only in one place, then we're going to have to move this somewhere. So without creating our complexity with something like context, I think let's go ahead and move this up to the app level so that we can use it in both the list view and the focus view. So essentially what I'm moving up, I'm going to copy this, I'm not going to cut it yet. Essentially what we want to move up is the API for how to delete a task. And that's going to work nicely with this here. Okay, let me show you where we're going here. So I want to create an API because essentially what we are passing into list screen and focus screen is an API. In fact, I'm going to rename this tasks API. So we're passing in our tasks API, which is right now tasks and set tasks. But what if I wanted to have another function on here called delete task? So let's have a function called delete task. And how about that function accept one argument of the task ID, since we have our ID system. I like that. So let's make a function. This is not going to be a higher order function. This isn't even going to deal with change events or anything like that. We're gonna keep the UI handling in the lower level components, but we're gonna keep the data handling in this higher level component. So this is gonna be way simplified. In fact, I'm gonna keep this here so you can see what we're doing, and I'm gonna create a new function for this. So new function called delete task. What we're going to do is we're going to pass in the task ID that we want to delete. This is going to be a string because our nano IDs are strings. We're not going to return anything specific here. So what we're going to do is this now is going to utilize this set tasks mapping logic that we created up here and map through our tasks. Oh, this is actually delete. I copied in the task complete change one. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry, I copied in the wrong one. Task delete click. Change click is, oh no, that is what I want to do. Okay. The button's called mark completed. That's what we're doing. We're not deleting it. Okay, I had this right to begin with. I misnamed this. So complete task, that's what we're doing. How about we mark task complete? That's what we'll do. So we're passing in the task ID. We're going to use this same logic that we had created before. If the task ID is the task ID that we're passing in, then we want to mark it. We actually want to change the completion. So we'll end up using this for both completing a task and uncompleting a task. So let's say we're going to rename this. So update task completion. So task ID string and then is complete is going to be a Boolean. And we're going to pass that right in to it's not our mutated task because we're not changing the value. We are creating a new task object, spreading the existing values. So let me recap real fast in case that was a lot. So we have this tasks API that we're passing into our list screen and focus screen. That has our tasks and our set tasks, tasks array and set task function. We're also going to pass in an update task completion function, which brings up the logic to a higher level that we're using on both the list and the focus views. The arguments of that function, the task ID and whether or not we should mark this task complete. So we're going to iterate over all the existing tasks that we have now. If the one we happen upon matches the ID we're trying to update, we're going to create a new task object with all the existing properties, but we're going to change the isComplete property with what we passed in. Otherwise, we're going to return the original task. There might be a slightly more performant way to handle this, but our list is so short. I think this is one of the more clear ways to do this. So now we have this update task completion API. Let's go into our types file because we have a new tasks prop now. Update task completion is a function that takes a task ID of a string and an isComplete value of a Boolean, and it really doesn't return anything. So we're going to say void. That's good. Okay, now in our list screen, this is where we had the logic before. So instead of having to have all of this logic in here, instead what we're going to do is we're just going to simply call that function that gets passed in. So now we'll have an update task completion function. And inside of here, we'll use our handled task ID. And then our isComplete value is whether or not this checkbox was checked. So now we don't need any of this. And now I don't have to call this one something fancy to deal with a naming conflict. So I'm just going to call this task. Save that. Okay, so now I'm reusing that task logic. So let's see on our list here. Make sure this still works. So we should have two not complete tasks, and now one not complete and one complete. So that works well. Now in our focus screen, we can create a button to mark this task complete and use that same logic. So let's go to our focus screen. Let's wrap a couple of more divs here. Going to add it whenever we're displaying a task. So we don't need this button if there are no tasks because there's nothing to mark complete. But when we are displaying a task, let's add a button to mark one complete. So mark complete. Mark completed is what I have in the design. From our task props, again, we have this update task completion function. So let's create a handler. I could even write this one in line, but we'll do this. So handle mark completed. Handle mark completed. We don't need any arguments from that button. So this will run our update task completion function, passing in the task ID, and we always want to mark it complete. So we're going to pass in true. Save that. So now shoot video, we mark it completed, then we're going to be we're going to be out of incomplete tasks, but so I'm going to, okay, so watch this. So this is incomplete. If I mark completed, this doesn't actually go away because we haven't built that functionality in the focus screen yet. But if I go to list view, now it is marked completed. So our button is now at least working. Now in our focus view, we only want to focus on tasks that are incomplete. So let's do that. So up here where we're trying to pick a task that we should use on this screen, we don't want to pick one from the whole tasks array. We want to pick one from a filtered tasks array where we're filtering down to only where the tasks are not complete. So now on our focus screen, we have no tasks, or I might say no incomplete tasks. Yay. And back on our list screen, we have our complete task. So if we add a third task that is now no longer complete, publish video, then on our focus screen, we have this publish video task. We can mark that complete, and yay, no more incomplete tasks. That's pretty awesome. Again, another great place to commit here. So let's see what we did. We extracted the logic for updating task completion up to the app component. We're using that now in both the focus screen and the list screen. So that looks good. So extract out update task completion logic. Okay, so the last and final piece of functionality that we have now is this nope button. So the nope button is really, nope, I don't want to work on this right now. So it's really pick a different task for me. So let's do that. So on our focus screen now, we are just picking the very first task that is not complete. But if we have a nope button, let's go ahead and add that. I'm gonna need a, let's see, publish video, respond to comments, make another video. So if we go to our focus screen, when we click nope here, we really want to pick a different task at random. So right now we're just always picking index of 0, but we want to pick a random task. So how should we do that? The other thing to keep in mind is I may want to, if I go to the list view and then back to focus view, I don't want this selected focus task to change. I really want that to persist. Even if I were to clear completed, that's going to potentially change the index value of the task I'm focusing on. So index is kind of like we talked about keys earlier, not a great way to persist which task we're focusing on. It's really based on ID. And we may need to keep in mind that that ID could change if that task gets marked completed on another screen, if it gets marked completed on the list screen. So there are a couple of different cases that we need to handle here. So what I need to do is I need to create a way to pick out an ID for an incomplete task at random and persist that across different views here. Because like I said, I don't want to switch views and have the focus task change. So what that means is I need to extract this functionality up to a higher level outside of just this focus screen. So let's go back up to the app. And I really need to be passing in the focus tasks in our tasks API here. So, or I need to pass a function. Yeah, okay, so let's do focus task. So we're gonna add to our API here, focused task. And then we're probably going to need a way to select a different focus task. So we're walking through this logic here. So let's take our existing line here, and we're going to use that in the app instead. So let's go to our tasks types here, and we're going to add to this a focused task, and that's either going to be a task or it's going to be null or undefined. So I'm going to do undefined for now. I'm going to do null. Okay, so focus task is either going to be task or null. We won't be focusing on one. And that would only be the case if we have no tasks. So now we need to identify our focused task in here. And in that case, we're pasting in the functionality that we had on the other screen to identify the focus task. And right now that's just picking the first one that's not complete. Okay, so we've updated our types. Now let's use that in our focus screen. So instead of picking out the task here, we are passing that in as focus task, and I'm just going to rename that locally to task. Let's see, so we have task, and that could be null, so that's fine. So we're just going to add a guard here within this condition, within this function. So let me save all of this and kind of see how we're doing. So I have a first, second, third, which I misspelled. Hey, look, I can delete it. Third. Go to focus, we have first. Okay, so we're passing in our focus tasks now. And now we kind of want to function to like shuffle focus task. But we also need, okay, yeah, that worked. Let's see, so let's make a function that we're adding to our tasks API here called shuffle focus tasks, or pick new focus tasks. We'll say shuffle focused task. So that's going to be a function, shuffle focus task. And the complexity we're introducing now is that we need to say, now that we're not just picking the first one, we need to save which one we're actually working on. So that means we need more state. So let's do focused task, and I'm going to say focused task ID because I really only care about that ID, and I'm going to end up finding the task matching that ID and passing it in as focused task. So then we'll set focused task ID. So this is going to use state, and it's going to be null for now, but it could be a string or null. So we're either going to have an ID, or we're going to have null. Now the focus task is going to be the one that matches this ID. So let's update that. So find the task where the task ID equals our focus task ID. So that's now the one that we're passing in as focus task. Now we need this shuffle function, and we also need one for when we are adding a task. So we're really building up a whole little task state API here because we have a number of things going on within our state. Again, once we build this up a little bit, it'd probably be good idea to refactor this once again. So one thing at a time here. Okay, so we're going to shuffle our focus task, which means we want to pick a different one. What I'm probably going to do is not cheat, but I'm going to pull in Lodash, even if it is just for the random function, because it's just a lot nicer. Oops. Okay. So let me bring up focus on terminal view. So I'm going to add in Lodash here. So yarn add Lodash, and I happen to know that we're going to need the types file for Lodash as well. So yarn add types Lodash. Add that flag of capital D to add it to our dev types. And what I want to do when we're shuffling our focus task to pick a new one, we're going to set the focus task ID to be the, let's see, it's probably going to be the first value. Actually, there's a shuffle command. Shuffle random. Okay, so Lodash has random number or shuffle collection. And shuffle returns a new shuffled array. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our current tasks. We're going to filter by only the ones that are incomplete. So not complete. Then we want to shuffle that, and we need to pull that in from Lodash. And then we need to pull the first one, and then we need to pull that one's ID. Now this could be null, so we're going to use the question mark operator here to only pull the ID if it's not null or undefined. So this will end up being a string, or it's going to be actually be undefined. So I'm going to say or null. So this will pick a new focus task ID. Again, real fast. Filtering down to only the incomplete tasks, shuffling that, taking the first one's ID, and storing that as the state. We need to do this. We need to do a similar thing when we add a new task to make sure that we always have a focus task. Okay, one thing at a time. Okay, we're failing to compile here. We have some red marks. Task or undefined is not assignable to task or null. So I'm saying that the focus task is either undefined or null. I think I'll just do undefined or task. We will not do nulls today. Okay, we're gonna switch back to just undefined here. Okay, so we have no incomplete tasks. In fact, we have no tasks at all. So first, second, third. If we go to the focus screen, this is going to point out our problem. It says we have no incomplete tasks. That's a lie. We do have incomplete tasks. So what happened is we added new tasks here. and the focus task ID just stayed undefined. So what we really need to do is, anytime we add a new task, ensure that we have some sort of focus task. So let's do that. In our list screen, that's where we're adding tasks. And we have this handle new task key press, where we're building up this new task that we have. We need to handle some additional functionality in here, which is ensuring that we always have a focus task. So I'm going to, again, extract out some of this and bring it into the app level. So I'm going to copy this whole thing, but we're not going to end up using the whole thing. And I'm going to add yet another function onto our tasks API here of add task. Okay. And so we're going to add an add task function. I'm going to put that up here. And this is a great time to talk about partials in TypeScript. So I don't want to pass in an entire task object because I'm going to handle some of that within this function. For reference, let me put the old function that we had on the other screen here. So this is the core of the functionality of adding a task to the data. In fact, let me go ahead and copy that in. So in order to add a task to our data here in our state, we need to set the tasks object, taking our current tasks, spreading our existing tasks, and adding a new one to the end. In this context, we can create the ID and we can create the isComplete flag. All we really need is the label. So we're going to only require passing in a label to this function. Now, one easy way we could do that is just say label string and accept that as an argument. But there may be a couple of other things down the road that we have. So I'm going to be a little more explicit and say we're still going to pass in a task, but we're only going to pass in a partial of this, meaning I only want the label. And partial is not the right word. Is it? Oh no, it's pick. It's pick. I only want to pass in a label. So if I look at this task object, the only property on it is a label. So that's all we're requiring. So let me go ahead and pull in nanoID into this file. The label will be the task label that we're passing in, and everything else we have. So that I've added to the API. Let's take this and add it to our types file. So add task, that's good. In fact, this tasks API, okay, never mind. So on this list screen, now I'm going to not so manually update this information here. So instead of using our set tasks function, we're going to use our add task function and utilize that. So instead of set tasks, we're going to add task. We're going to pass in an object, but we don't want ID and isComplete. All we want is label, because we are generating those other two values in app. Let's see here. This expression is not callable. Well, that's because we didn't make this a function. Okay, add task is actually a function where we're returning nothing. We're returning void. Okay, that's good. We'll test that out. Now we're not using nanoID in this file, so we don't need that. Are we still using set tasks? Okay, we're still using that for delete, and we're still using that for clear. I'd probably want to extract that functionality out too, but we'll leave that there for now. Types look good. We have add task. We've added that to our API. So we've saved all of our files, and we should be pretty good here. So I've refreshed. We'll start over again. First, second, third. I misspelled third again. So we have those 3 tasks. I can delete one. If we go to focus, we still don't have this. This is what we were working towards. Okay, so now in our app, when we add a task, not only do we need to set these tasks to update our task data, but if our focus task ID is not present, then we want to set our focus task ID to whatever this new ID is. So I'm going to create an ID variable and save that in here. Great. So anytime we add a task, we add it to the list, and then if we didn't have a prior focus task, then we go ahead and set that one as our focus task. So let me refresh. We'll start over here. Our focus screen says no incomplete tasks. If I add our first task, that adds to the list screen. On our focus screen, yes. Okay, we have it there as well. If we go to the list and we add a second task, we go back, it's still the first, so that's good. So that's really nice. Now let's hook up this nope button and see how our shuffling is working. So going over to our focus screen, we have this nope button. We'll make an on-click handler here. So handle nope click. Handle nope click. We don't need any arguments for that button. And we're going to use the, did we add that to our types? No, we didn't. Okay, so this shuffle focus task, we didn't end up adding that to our types. So we didn't have that. Let's see, so shuffle focused task. And that's just a function that returns void. It's just something we call. So now we should have that available as a prop. So on the handle nope click, we're going to shuffle the focus task. And in fact, since this isn't doing anything else, I can just pass that in as the actual handler itself. So I have a list view. I have first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. Let's see some shuffling. So if I hit nope, second, fifth, sixth, second, first, fourth, fifth, third, fifth, it shuffles which one we're focusing on. If I go back to the list view and then go back, we want to see this persist. So we want to see that fifth task is still there. And it is. So no matter how much I go back and forth between this, it's still there. Great. This is another great place to make a commit. Okay, so we have extracted out our adding tasks functionality. We've added shuffling of focus task. We're added some more stuff to our API. You can now shuffle from the focus view. Okay, so overall, we did all of this stuff in order to add the nope button. So add nope functionality to focus screen. That's looking pretty good, y'all. Okay, so we really have all of the functionality part of the UI here. What we're missing is we're missing a way to persist this data. So we'd like to use local storage to store this in the browser. And then we'd like to make this look a little better than it does. So we'd like to implement our styled UI here to make this better. I'm going to save that for a part 2 of this video, and I think we're going to call this one here today. So I hope you have enjoyed this. I will be live streaming the part 2 portion of this video soon. And I'll also post this code up to a GitHub repo. So check the description and comments of this video to find that. And other than that, I'll see you next time. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please comment, let me know. That would be awesome. And if you like, subscribe. That really helps my channel. So thanks for watching today, and I'll see you next time.